Welcome, and thank you for checking out this brief video intended to describe and define the Louisiana Industrialized Building Act and the Office of State Fire Marshal's role in enforcing this act. On January 1st, 2007, the Louisiana State Uniform Construction Code became effective and required all municipalities and parishes in the state to enforce the adopted construction codes. This task is performed by building code enforcement offices or certified third-party providers contracted by the municipality or parish or regional planning commission, and includes review of the plans, conducting inspections, and the issuance, denial, or revocation of permits. Because industrialized buildings are constructed of modules or modular building units that are constructed off-site and arrive with some or all of the building systems, for example, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and structural, already built into the unit, a method of review and inspection was needed to avoid the units from being disassembled or destructive testing having to occur to ensure compliance with the adopted building codes. The solution was Act 364 of the Louisiana 2007 regular session, commonly referred to as the Industrialized Building Act. The purpose of the act is to provide a method of plan review and inspection which occurs at the place of manufacture and provide those buildings with a decal which protects the unit against destructive testing when it is relocated anywhere within the state. Without this decal, the local building officials are required to inspect the structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and other systems in accordance with the currently adopted standards and codes. This would require destructive testing and potential renovations to address new code requirements each time the unit moves to a new location. Like the Louisiana State Uniform Construction Code, the effective date of the Industrialized Building Act was January 1, 2007. All industrialized buildings constructed after this date are required to meet or exceed the requirements of the building code and of the state fire marshal. So what is an industrialized building? An industrialized building is a commercial structure that is erected or installed using one or more modules or modular components that are constructed at a location other than the commercial job site and designed to be used as a commercial building when transported and erected or installed on the commercial site. This includes the structure's plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical systems, and includes both permanent and temporary commercial structures. An industrialized building does not include buildings that exceed 3 stories or 49 feet in height when measured from the finished ground to the level to the roof peak. It is important to understand an industrialized building and/or its modular components are constructed off-site and transported to the commercial site as a finished product, with the building systems covered by the building construction and interior finishes. On-site inspection of these components is not possible and must occur and be documented while under construction in the manufacturer's facility. In accordance with the law, the State Fire Marshal has provided rules for the registration and regulation of manufacturers and dealers of industrialized buildings. All individuals or entities manufacturing buildings or components intended for installation in Louisiana must be registered as a manufacturer with the State Fire Marshal. Additionally, all individuals and entities engaged in leasing or selling industrialized buildings or components for installation in Louisiana must be registered as a dealer with the State Fire Marshal. Information on how to register, as well as a list of registered manufacturers and dealers, can be found on the Louisiana State Fire Marshal's website. In order to register as an industrialized building manufacturer, all applicants are required to provide a copy of a current, valid contract with a third-party provider for inspection services. It's important to note the third-party provider must be registered with the Louisiana State Uniform Construction Code Council. Additionally, a building code plan review may be performed by a third-party provider, but must be documented in writing to the State Fire Marshal when submitted for decal plan review. It's critical to understand third-party inspections are required for all buildings. Third-party plan reviews, however, are optional, but when provided, do not replace the OSFM review for life safety and fire protection requirements. The manufacturer of an industrialized building shall submit plans and information, including structural calculations and energy code compliance documentation, to the state fire marshal for all new construction of buildings and renovations to existing buildings to ensure compliance with the building codes. Manufacturers electing to utilize a third-party plan reviewer must document that in writing to the state fire marshal, and the plan review report from the third-party provider must include, at a minimum, the name of the registered third-party provider and the Louisiana State Uniform Construction Code Council issued registration number, the name of the manufacturer and the state fire marshal issued registration number, the date of the plan review, identification number, plan review, or serial number of the building or component reviewed, a list of all applicable codes and additions reviewed for compliance, a statement indicating that the information contained in the plan submittal has been reviewed for compliance with the applicable codes, and a final report indicating any nonconformities observed and corrective actions required, if applicable. The plan review report and a copy of the reviewed, approved plans must be submitted to the state fire marshal for oversight, along with any additional information required with the design plan submittal. While manufacturing is permitted to begin upon approval from the registered third-party reviewer, any additional deficiencies detected by the state fire marshal during the design plan submittal review must be corrected, and oversight of the corrections performed by the state fire marshal before decals are affixed to the building or component. Submission of industrialized buildings occur in two phases or submittals. First, the manufacturers must submit the building or component for decal review. The scope of these IB reviews is limited to the aspects of construction performed at the place of manufacture. The IB plan review letter shall not be used to obtain a permit for site installation, but rather is used for the decal request process. The second review, or site-specific plan review, is submitted by the industrialized building dealer or owner for review and approval in order to obtain a building permit from the local applicable jurisdiction for the site-specific installation. The IB decal number shall be provided by the owner upon submittal to the fire marshal for site-specific review. Once the decal and limitations of the initial IB review are verified and confirmed, the scope of the review will be for site-specific elements and other items not reviewed under the decal review. Limitations of the initial IB review include the approved occupancy classification, floor plan design and layout, and the maximum wind speed for the proposed location. It is important for dealers, lessees, and owners to understand the limitations of any industrialized building prior to submitting for site installation review. Like the plan review process, inspections also occur at two distinct phases. First, a registered third-party inspector is required to inspect the construction of the industrialized buildings at the manufacturer's facility while the units are under construction. Upon submission, review, and acceptance of the site installation review, a building code enforcement officer or registered third-party inspector and the state fire marshal or his designee shall inspect the construction involving the site installation of an industrialized building, which includes the construction of the foundation system and the erection and installation of the module or modular components. All industrialized buildings, modular sections, and modular components approved by the state fire marshal shall be affixed with the Louisiana Industrialized Building decal. This decal serves as verification and acceptance of the construction approved by the design plan review and inspection of the unit at the manufacturer's facility. Only construction site buildings are exempt from the decal provisions of the Industrialized Building Act. Construction site buildings are those commercial structures that are not open to the public and used for any purpose at a commercial site by a person constructing a building, road, bridge, utility, or other infrastructure or improvement to real property. Additionally, these buildings are used for temporary purposes only, meaning they are on site for 180 days maximum. As previously mentioned, the purpose of the Industrialized Building Act and subsequent decaling is to provide verification of a building's review and inspection in accordance with the adopted codes at the time of construction. Any industrialized building bearing a decal is not required to comply with future amendments to the building code approved by the council. However, any elements that are altered or changed in existing industrialized buildings shall be made to conform to the requirements of the building code for new construction. Additionally, renovations exceeding 50% of the value of the modules or modular components shall require the entire building to be brought into compliance with the requirements of the building code for new construction. If the renovations are less than 50% of the module or modular component's value, only the modified or altered portion shall comply with the building code for new construction. It is again important to note any alteration or renovation of the industrialized building bearing a decal must be made at the manufacturer's facility and submitted to the State Fire Marshal for review. Unauthorized modifications or changes to an industrialized building bearing a State Fire Marshal decal shall void the decal of approval, and that decal shall be removed in accordance with Louisiana Administrative Code Title 55, Part 5, Section 2729. Additional provisions are provided under Section 2715 for the change in use of industrialized buildings, as well as minor modifications to approved designs made during the manufacturing process. Any modification, renovation, or change of occupancy of an existing industrialized building bearing a decal must be submitted to the State Fire Marshal for decal plan review and undergo the same building and system inspections as required for a new construction. No work shall begin on an existing unit until the plans have been approved by the State Fire Marshal. Once the building has undergone all required inspections and tests during the renovation and construction process, the State Fire Marshal will authorize the placement of a new decal to be affixed to the building. For all new buildings and components, prior to leaving the manufacturing plant, a data plate shall be permanently mounted on or about the electrical panel, providing the required information stipulated in Part 2713.I. All life safety systems and property protection systems must be integrated, installed, certified, and serviced by a life safety and property protection contractor licensed by the State Fire Marshal's Office. Licensing information, including a searchable database, can be found on the Fire Marshal's website. So what common questions do we receive regarding industrialized buildings? So what is not an industrialized building? Shell buildings and residential trailers are not considered industrialized buildings. A shell building is a manufactured building documented to contain no mechanical, electrical, or plumbing from the factory. Examples of these include the storage buildings you might find at a local hardware store that contain no interior finishes or building systems. These interior finishes and systems are constructed and installed on the commercial job site. Residential trailers, including manufactured homes or modular homes, or those constructed to HUD standards, cannot be submitted for a change of occupancy to a commercial occupancy. Such buildings cannot meet the requirements of the Industrialized Building Act relative to the Louisiana State Uniform Construction Code. The structure shall meet the requirements for new construction if a change of occupancy classification is proposed. One exception, in 2023, Act number 349 was passed that permits a manufactured or modular home dealer or developer to use a manufactured or modular home as a business occupancy with no overnight sleeping. Only the provisions of the LSUCC and the provisions of the Industrialized Building Act are exempt. Review by the Office of State Fire Marshal for compliance with the requirements of Life Safety Code and the Americans with Disabilities Act is required. Can I change the configuration of a building modules to suit different needs? Optional configurations are not allowed without a review. Any proposed optional configurations not reviewed under the initial decal submittal shall be resubmitted individually with drawings for that specific configuration. Any configurations acknowledged under a decal plan review will be permitted. This concludes our industrialized building presentation. If you have any questions you can always reach out to the Louisiana Office of State Fire Marshal at 1-800-256-5452. Thank you.